Hey guys, I guess many of you have already noticed that there was a recent patch in Diablo 4 which made the progress and looting system much quicker and easier. So the current meta is that you would farm this new vault dungeons from Season 3, and at the end of this vault dungeons you will have a lot of loot and rewards that you can pick up. And I thought that's maybe the best timing to make this video, where I provide you some tips and tricks and strategies that I use for dealing a bit better with items and comparing items. So we don't have a loot filter right now, and I don't think that we ever will have a loot filter. So many players are basically overwhelmed by this mass of items and affixes. And I think it's no secret that itemization in Diablo 4 right now is one of its biggest problems, and the developers have already confirmed that in Season 4 they will change this entire system, so we will get a new itemization system in Season 4, but we don't know what exactly will change so far. And also for all of you who are trying to enjoy Season 3, I think it's still a good timing to make this video and provide you with some guide here. So let's start. I will just pick up all of these items here, and then I will talk about the tips. So the first tip I can give you, especially if you're a new player, so maybe you have just started with Diablo 4 in this season, then the first tip I can give you is that you should not overthink items, especially in World Tier 1 until 3. So in the first 3 World Tiers, the items are not that important as you might think. So basically you can follow one simple rule, which is the higher the item power, the better the item is. So each item has these item powers, and for defensive gear, item power means that the armor value is higher or lower. So the maximum amount of armor you will get it at the highest item power. And for weapons, item power increases the overall damage, the DPS. So especially in World Tier 1 to 3, like I mentioned, when you follow this simple rule, this is basically enough for getting steady progress with your character. Because the most important things in Diablo is dealing damage and surviving enemy damage. So the more armor you have, the less damage enemies will deal to you, because armor protects you from physical damage, which is the biggest damage source in Diablo 4. While, like I mentioned, item power on your weapons give you more DPS, more damage. This is obviously also very important. So yeah, just follow this simple rule. Just compare items very quickly by their item power, if they give you more armor or more damage. And then if you additionally find something with like 1 or 2 decent defensive rolls, something like total armor or damage reduction or maximum life on your chest or on your pants, or you can find a weapon with your main stat on it, so for example dexterity for rogue, or boots with movement speed, then you are just good to go. So but I would just not overthink items in this early stage of the game, because it doesn't matter too much anyway. So you want to push, most of the times you want to rush as quickly as possible into World Tier 4, because there this whole endgame loop begins, and before World Tier 4 it's not really worth it to overthink items. And also I would not recommend you to reroll some affixes on items or something. So just wait until you're in World Tier 4, and then you can start getting more advanced in your itemization. Then the second tip I can give you, I don't know if you are using this function already, but you have a sort function in your inventory. So by clicking this, the game will automatically sort all of your items in your inventory by the item category. So here we have all of our helmets, here we have all of our chest plates and crossbows and so on. And it will also automatically sort them by item level. or item power. So in my case here, I have mostly 925 items because I'm farming a quite high Nightmare Dungeon tier. But usually have some of a range for item power, so it's also quite useful to sort these items automatically. And especially this tip gets more powerful if you combine it with the next tip that I can give you, which is that before the season start, you could already plan your season journey. So you basically plan ahead which character and which build you would like to play in the season. So each season has some unique mechanics, and also each season comes with a balance patch usually. So what I, for example, like to do is I watch the developer stream, I look at the patch notes, and then I already start theory crafting and creating new builds. So obviously that's something that I really enjoy in the game, but if you do not enjoy this process, then of course you can also just watch your favorite content creators for Diablo 4 and just copy their builds or get inspired by their builds. But the important thing here is that you have a plan in your mind how you want to progress in your season journey, kind of. So for example, for me, I decided to start the season with Penetrating Shot Rogue with Shadow Imbuement. I call it the Barber Rogue. You can also find the guide for it on my channel. And yeah, since I decided to play with the Spanshot Rogue, I already have planned all of the items that I want to acquire in the end game. So I knew that I want to play with the new Sky Hunter. I also knew I would play with Condemnation, with T-Bot's Will, and here I was lucky enough to find a Shaco already, but instead of a Shaco I would have played with a Godslayer Crown. So I know, for example, that I have 4 slots which are covered by unique items already. So if I know that, I will automatically pay less attention to these item groups. So for example, I know that when I will reach level 75, I will start farming Varshan for my Sky Hunter and for my Condemnation. So I don't need to find a good crossbow because I will replace it anyways soon. And also for Condemnation, I don't need... I mean, I still need some good dagger because I can only play with 1 Condemnation, so I will always pick up daggers and look at them, but once I have found a good dagger, I basically don't need a second one because I'm playing with Condemnation. And also for the pants, I know that I will play with T-Bot's Will, starting from level 85 or maybe even 80, depends on how I can farm Duriel in solo or with a group. And then from this moment on I will just try to get a decent T-Bot's Will, and I will not need any further good pants. And the same with the helmet. So if you know that you will have some slots covered by your uniques, then this makes your life a bit more simple and easy, because you just don't need to compare every item category anymore. And so right now, for example, I have quite decent gear, and my weakest gear is my jewelry. So I have rings that I could further enhance, and also my amulet. So I will most likely look for some nice rings and amulets. And also my gloves are not perfect. I'm playing with Grasp of Shadow right now, and I also want to replace them with some nice rare gloves. So gloves and jewelry are the item categories I'm looking for right now. So at this point, and today for example, I have found my perfect boots. So these are my best in slot boots for Rogue, triple ras with movement speed. And so at this point in the game, I will not even pick up any boots or helmets or pants, for example, because I already have best in slot items. And like I mentioned, you can already plan this ahead. So if you know you will start farming Varshan or Beast in Ice at level 75 or 80, then you should not overthink too much on these item categories when you are getting closer to this level cap where you start farming these items. So this is at least how I do it. So now, after we picked up all the loot, I sort them with the sort function, and now I can just quickly scan through all the item categories. So here we have 6 helmets, but since I already have the Shaco, the best helmet in the game, or also I would play with Godslayer Crown from Duriel, I don't need any more helmets. So what I would do here is I would just look at this legendary helmet here. So I would check this aspect, if it's a good aspect. At this point in the game I also only pick up max rolled aspects because I have too many of them already. So this is not the max rolled aspect, so I just mark this item as trash. And I don't even look at all of these other items here because I'm not interested in them. Chest plates, I have a decent chest plates, but usually I like to look at chest plates because I also will probably start a second character at one point, and then I will also need a decent chest plate here. So I will look up at these here, and unfortunately they are not good, but I have checked them because I'm always interested in chest plates. Then the same goes here for the weapon categories. I will only compare the legendary aspects here because I'm not interested in any crossbow right now. And also I don't need any swords or daggers since I have a very nice dagger here and I'm playing with Condemnation. So also quite simple and quickly here. Then we have 4 gloves. Since I'm interested in gloves, I will compare all of them. So here I'm checking if something interesting is here, and no. And like I mentioned, I have T-Bolt's Will, so I'm not checking this pants here. I also don't need any boots. And now I only have 3 jewelry pieces here, so I'm checking this ring, and then I'm checking the amulets. Okay, so this is the strategy that I use to very quickly compare items. And I think together with the sorting function and planning your journey ahead and knowing what your best in slot items are, this already makes this whole process much more effective. And the 4th tip I can give you, so now let's talk more about efficiency, so how you can increase the efficiency of comparing different items. So the fourth tip is you can try to learn the game more. So you need to understand which affixes are the best in slot affixes, not only for your class and your build, but in general. So for example, for helmets, something like cooldown reduction, maximum life, and total armor, and also plus 4 ranks to a skill. These 4 are, I would say, the best in slot affixes for all helmets, for all classes, and for most builds. And for chest plates, for example, you have total armor, damage reduction to close, elemental damage reduction. So here I have poisoned damage reduction from poison enemies, since I'm a rogue that can poison. So you can start learning the best in slot affixes. And then you will also have a much more efficient phase of comparing items, because many players, for example, sometimes read things like that in the comments section of other YouTube videos, that people just feel overwhelmed by all of this, from this big amount of affixes. So Diablo 4 has many affixes, and most of them are really trash. So you just need to learn the 4 or 5 best affixes for each item category, and then this whole process of comparing items becomes much more efficient and much more easy. And another tip that I can give you if you didn't know it, Blizzard has also changed the system of the affix order. So I think in Season 2 or even Season 1, they changed it in a way where the affixes on items are always in the same position. So for example, on rings, something like critical strike chance will always appear at the top. So critical strike chance will always be the first affix in the ring category. So what I do when I compare rings in my inventory, and for rogue I like my best in slot ring is one with a decent critical strike chance. The first thing that I do is I check the top line of the affix pool. And here you can see I have critical strike damage, so this means I have no critical strike chance roll on this ring, because it would appear at the first position. And since I don't like to reroll the most important stat, so if I need a ring with decent critical strike chance, I want to find one that has it already. I don't want to reroll it at the occultist until I have a decent roll. So for me this means this ring is already trash, because I don't even need to look up the other 3 affixes. I already know this ring is not important for me because it doesn't have this important critical strike chance affix. So this is also a very important tip in my opinion. Then I think, for example, boots have movement speed also quite in the top, so I think movement speed will always be the second or first affix. It depends if the boots have a intelligence, strength or dexterity roll. So the primary stats are the first roll and then movement speed is the second. And for example, gloves always will have +3 ranks to a skill at the bottom of the affix pool. So you also will learn this over time. So if you are a beginner, this will of course need some time, but you will you will understand it and get better at it and faster. So yeah, just try to learn the game, learn the best in slot affixes, learn the position of the affix rolls, and then I think you will get much more fast with that process. And the last tip I can give you is just simply enjoy the game. So if you don't like to compare every item and this really stresses you and overwhelms you, then maybe you should just try to not overthink it too much and just play with the gear you have. So Diablo 4 is not a very difficult game right now, so you can clear most of the content with pretty good gear, but you don't need the perfect gear. So especially in the end game, if you already have reached level 85 or something, you could also just stop comparing items too much. So if you feel strong enough for most of the content, then you can also just try to enjoy the game this way and don't care too much about new items. So yeah, only if you want to go for the leaderboards in the future, if you want to push for top 1000 leaderboards maybe, then of course you want to get as good gear as possible. But besides that, I think the content in Diablo 4 is that easy that you don't need very good or perfect gear for it. So that were my tips and strategies that I can share with you, and I hope it was somehow helpful to you. If it was, you can leave me a like or subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. And I guess I see you in the next video, guys. I wish you a very nice day and goodbye.